Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of A New European Bauhaus. This is a format inaugurated by Triennale Milano just yesterday, and this is a series of bilateral meetings with European cultural representation in Milano. I'm Marco Sammicheli, and I'm the International Relations Chief Officer of Triennale Milano. Since its foundation, Triennale has hosted the research and the languages of the international creative community, and since 1933, it has been part of the BIE, Bureau International des Expositions, and every 3 years, it organizes an international exhibition which, with a system of national pavilions, presents the most relevant innovations in the fields of architecture, urban planning, design, and new media. In attempt to pursue this target, Triennale Milano listened to the message of the European Commission that in October 2020, last October, launched the project of a new European Bauhaus, a movement of thought, a platform, a call of participation that aims to involve cultural institutions, universities, associations, and the widest possible pool of citizens. For the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, the themes of social and economic development, investment in a future based on environmental sustainability, and the values of each community are the result of the networking of complex and widespread knowledge systems such as design, architecture, but also demography, new technologies, and study of renewable energy. So these are the topics of the new European Bauhaus that must promote to tackle the environmental crisis of the planet. Triennale di Milano has decided to create a series of digital conferences in collaboration with the diplomatic and cultural representatives of European countries. It has had diplomatic relations with, organized exhibition for, and made publication for almost a century, and has entered into collaboration agreements. Yesterday we had Germany with the Goethe Institute Mailand, and today we have France with the Institut Français of Milan. Starting from end of November 2020, through this digital format, open and free of charge for our audience, Triennale will invite curators, designers, scholars, and museum directors to think about how the theme proposed by the European Commission is possible, and also to share ideas, comments, proposals, practices in a very delicate moment in the European and world history where it is necessary to rethink the tools, the approaches, and the dynamics of cultural exchange. I'm very happy to inaugurate this series today with a co-host, which is the director of the Institut Français in Milano. Good evening and welcome, Linda Marchetti. I leave the floor to you to introduce our guest and to start our conversation that in the next 15 minutes will tackle all these contents.
Thank you, Marco. French Institute is really glad to contribute to this initiative of Triennale Milano, which I take the opportunity to thank. We are actively developing in Milano our activities on design, especially during the Salon del Mobile, of course, for the French participation to the Triennale event itself. And we'll be hosting in 2021, for example, an exhibition of Constance Guisset in our gallery, right after her solo show in La Villanoise in Hyères. Our French guests can hardly be presented in a few seconds. I will try nevertheless to give some highlights and invite the public to read their biography on our webpage. So let's start with you, Constance. You found your own design studio more than 10 years ago, working in product design, interior design, and scenography on stage and in museums. The prestigious Musée des Arts Décoratifs de Paris exposed your work in 2018. You received important awards such as a prize as Grand Prix Design de la Ville de Paris or wallpaper prizes and many others. I personally find that your research on movement, lightness and aesthetic and poetry is particularly illustrated by your vertigo lamp, but there are many other famous examples that can testify of your very own style. Next to you, a French designer, whose skills have been built during his time at l'École de Condé in Lyon and the Straight College in Sèvres, and now living in Milano, Philippe Tabet, who opened his own studio here 6 years ago, after having collaborated with the Italian designer Otto Fioravanti, laureate of the prestigious prize Compasso d'Oro in 2011. Philippe, you have received yourself a few important awards, such as the Good Design Awards for your Fushimi bed in 2017, your Young and Awards the same years for your Stool and Table, or for your Real Chair in 2018. Your practice of design applies to a wide spectrum of objects, from furniture to electronics, where each production has a story to tell or live of its own story that you expose and confront also with younger generation during your teaching activities. I welcome also Jean-Louis Fréchin, architect, designer, author and curator, founder of No Design in 2001, an agency specialized in design, innovation and strategic thinking. For you, Jean-Louis, design is an attitude, a prism for understanding and questioning the world. Your projects have been exhibited in many French and international museums, including the MoMA in New York, the Centre Georges Pompidou, and the Musée des Arts Décoratifs de Paris. I want also to mention your curatorial project, Designer du Design, for Lille, Capitale Mondiale du Design, and the publication of your book, Le Design des Choses à l'heure du numérique. You won a large number of awards, such as the Prix du Musée des Arts Décoratifs and the Observe du Design, and been honored as Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Mérite for your commitment in the fields of design and innovation, and for your teaching of digital design. Last but not least, I welcome Dominique Chiama, appointed director and dean of the forthcoming CY École du Design at Cergy Paris Université in France, which is set to open in September 2021. Dominique, you created and led also the Intelligent System and Objects Department and Research activity of the Straight College in Sèvres, before to become the Straight College director for 7 years. You are also the president of the French Design Promotion Agency, APCI, and played a very active role in the implementation of a national French design policy. I wish you all an interesting discussion.
Thank you very much, Linda, for the introduction and for this glimpse. Of course, the professional life of Constance Guisset, Philippe Tabet, Dominique Chiama, and Jean-Louis Fréchin are very interesting. And we also picked them because we wanted different points of view, and in order to stress the different options, critics, or opportunities that the new European Bauhaus project can bring to the debate and to the design discourse, not only in Europe. Let me read, before starting the conversation, few elements that they were characterizing the statement of Ursula von der Leyen when she introduced the new European Bauhaus on October 14th. It's going to be a bridge between the world of science and technology and the world of art and culture, between good design and sustainability. But the element that was interesting at my eyes was that to deal with and get closer to people's minds and homes. Ms. van der Leyen said it's going to be a forum for discussion, an experimentation lab, an accelerator for new solutions, a hub for global networks and experts, a meeting place for citizens interested in the topic. For people that, like us, that we've been in the business of design for more or less several years, we heard about these platforms many times. Many of us are sons or daughters of the Erasmus projects, and we were used before pandemics to travel and visit different biennale and not only read online, but also meet and greet many, many colleagues and friends. But the new European Bauhaus will move in 3 steps. And this is my first question, or my first comment that I want to ask to Dominique Chiama, which is that the European Bauhaus will work in 3 steps. The first one is a design phase to explore ideas and shape the movement. The second one will be individuating 5 new European Bauhaus projects in the different European member states. And the third phase will be spreading the ideas. I'd like to hear your first comment, your first impression as an educator and as a president of the French Association of Industrial Design when you heard about the new European Bauhaus. What was your feelings as a professional? Just a minute, Dominique, we open your mic. Now it's open.
Okay, so my first reaction is to open a bottle of champagne. Really, French champagne. Why? Because, I mean, it's a blessing, you know, to hear that at the highest level, the highest political level in Europe, someone is speaking about design. Someone is speaking about Bauhaus, which is a legend, you know, for all designers. So it's a blessing having such an important person talking about the Bauhaus, okay? And it's a question, because you all have here French people, you know, we are part of culture, which has a strange relationship with design, okay? If you look at the, you know, an average board meeting in French companies or an average board in a ministry in France, and you look at the number of designers around the table, you know, none, okay? Not a designer in the decision circle. Okay? And when you look at a national design policy, do we have one? We don't have one. Where do we tackle the design as an important discipline in France? At the strategic level, at the state level, even in companies. I won't say nowhere, but we are not at the level we should be. Okay? So having this potential idea of a European Bauhaus, you know, in front of us as French, is a question. You know, how do we contribute to that? Knowing that ourselves, we are fighting in our own country for design. And we haven't won, it's not a victory right now, okay? We are fighting. We had the first French National Conference on Design last December, okay? And we are waiting for some outcome of it. But they are not yet there, okay? So this is very interesting tension between France and this new European project, okay? How can we contribute to that? And I think we can. We can, in many dimensions, okay? We can because we are political people. Okay? France is definitely a political people. And even if we have a strange relationship with Europe, because we consider Europe as a kind of French extension, okay, still, Europe is a political project. And when I hear Ursula von der Leyen talking about the new Bauhaus, I hear about a new political dimension of the European project. For me, claiming the importance of a new Bauhaus is claiming the importance of doing politics in another way. Because doing politics is to create the condition of good life experiences for all Europeans, right? This is the definition of design for me. This is the definition of politics too. So saying we want to create a new Bauhaus is saying that we want to create a new way to imagine the condition of our lives. Because this is the final goal of design. How do we create the condition of good life? How can we contribute to that? Knowing that the way we teach design, the way design is considered in France, is not the way we should do it. Okay? In many dimensions, we are far from what we should do, okay? Because of the past, because of our culture, because of our relationship with power, with the economy, with money, you know, with the entrepreneurship. It's very difficult to be French and to work as a designer in France if we want to expand the domain of design. And so it's a fantastic opportunity for us, I think. Because by addressing a project bigger than France with a design perspective is a good news. The locomotive is not in France, it's in Europe. It's Europe who's talking about design. How can we contribute to that? It's a perfect moment for me, for instance, you know. I'm the president of APCI, but I'm creating a new school from scratch, blank page. At the right moment, someone is asking for a new Bauhaus. Okay, let's contribute. Okay, my idea is, okay, I want to contribute to that. How can I contribute to that? How can we contribute to that? I will personally say that we will contribute to that by imagining a design school as a new political school. We need to train designers who will be able to position themselves from matter to decision, from matter to decision. Okay? And on this continuum, a designer should take any place. We could be part of the decision process. We could be very close to matter, to energy. And this continuum is the continuum we should invest in. We should give our future designer a very strong political culture, a very strong economic culture, a very strong human science culture. We should give them the ability to discuss with anyone in any human organization in order to be part of it, and why not to lead it? No? As we do for engineers, from École Polytechnique or École Centrale or HEC, we should do it within a design school. How do we train political animals again? Because we were once political animals. We are not anymore. We are social animals, we are economical animals, we are industrial animals, we are money animals, but we are not political animals anymore, because we are in the train of progress, and the train is going there mechanically. Well, we thought it was going there. It's not. We have to drive. We have to put our hand on the wheel again, okay? We need to drive towards a new destination, which is a good life, okay? And this is a political stand. This is a political stand. To do that, we need to work together differently, to solve problems differently, to make decisions differently, to aggregate knowledge and issues differently. Well, we need to do some design, because this is what designers are doing, okay? They are creating the condition of collaboration, of problem solving, of creation, of the goodwill for the greater good. This is the position of what should be the position of a design school, okay? And this is, I mean, this is my contribution will be that. How can we, as a design school, contribute to a new Bauhaus? Meaning, how can we contribute as a design school to implement the European political project, which is the new Enlightenment, for the benefit of all Europeans, and as an example for the whole world population, you know? And if we do that, I think we will be contributors of a new Bauhaus, really.
Thank you very much, Dominic, for your approach, for your positive strength, and for the sparkling, not just because you quoted the bottle of French champagne that you opened when you heard about the new European Bauhaus, but the fact that you are imagining that a new school, a new design school, has to work with disciplines that we in somehow forgot or avoided or just removed from the school programs. You just said that we need to be political animals, and actually, and to think about population. We often talk about big data, but we also need to know how to read data, and that's why the European Commission named among the disciplines that they need to be transferred. There's and taught. There's demography, which is, in my opinion, a good point when it comes now to design, but political animals is, in my opinion, the first role that a designer, a contemporary designer, is to embody when it starts, when he or she starts the first day of the practice. In this sense, I also remember what we talked about yesterday with the Germany, with the guest of the German episodes of A New European Bauhaus. This lack between the French system and the European drive is a point that actually marks the difference between France, Germany, but also makes Italy close to France in this sense, because we have a great tradition in design, but when it comes to school policy and protocols, there's a lack of rules and debate at the level that is the politics. So thank you, Dominic, and this gives me the chance to move to Constance Guisset as a product designer, as a leader of a studio. My question is not just what was her reaction about the new European Bauhaus, but how a designer, a French designer with a global perspective as her, react to a chance or to a statement like the new European Bauhaus. Please, Constance.
Yes, so can you hear me? Is my
Very
microphone
well.
okay? Thank you. So I was also very happy to hear from Ursula von der Leyen, because I think it's a blessing for us French people, because we need also our authorities to be extremely proactive on that subject. But then I was just questioning the use of the term Bauhaus, because I'm not sure. I think there are lots of similarities with the moment we are experiencing now. First, of course, there's this idea of the time, because we are experiencing a crisis, social, economic crisis, etc. This is very important, and that was what was happening at the moment of the Bauhaus too. So, and at that moment, what was visible was that there was a strong energy in creation, and there was a reaction to that crisis. So in that sense, I understand why she's talking about Bauhaus. Also, in another sense, the idea of the synthesis of the arts, it's really true that we can talk about the necessity of us creative people, architects, designers, artists in general, to work together, to think of the world of tomorrow, of the world of today also. So this is very important. I think that's it's very interesting that she talks about Bauhaus because of that. But then I think there are two things that were close to Bauhaus that are not close to our situation today. And that's why I'm calling for a kind of new concept that is not Bauhaus, that is today's concept, and it's not the concept of that time. First, I would like to talk about politics. Bauhaus was thought to be not a political movement, and Walter Gropius really wanted it not to be politic in the beginning, in the very beginning. Then it went to Dessau and it became more politic. But this is, I think it's important that our movement today, our position today as designers be political. It's extremely important, I think, because we need to change the world and we need to change it with that perspective. And then talking about functionality that was so strong in the Bauhaus, I think it has to be changed also, and we need to redefine the idea of functionality, because at that moment, industry was also important, and they were all hoping that industry would change the world, and they were really interested in that. And I think now we are living a moment that is a little bit different, where industry and innovation are really essential, but also we understand that craft that we have been forgetting for some time has a real importance. And I think that this also, we need to redefine the relationship we have with industry and with growth in general, because I think the idea of growth need to be redefined. And we don't have the same idea of growth today that we used to have during that period. So this is very important. Then what do we do as designers when we are asked to think of objects for tomorrow? How do we consider the idea of sustainability? Because I think all this is about sustainability of objects, and that's what is the core subject here, and why functionality is interesting in that with that perspective is that because sustainability needs to be a kind of priority. I think it's the priority of many designers for a very long time. Just some editors and the industry, the suppliers, etc. All the system is not ready for the moment and needs to be even more ready for that momentum now. Why do I say that? Very often I have clients when I design places that say that they have a real desire for sustainability, making sustainable places or objects. And when it comes to designing them, when it comes to making choices in terms of material, in terms of price also, it becomes more difficult. And that's why we need to have a real move towards this meeting between sustainability and functionality, beauty, desire, and price. We need to bring the objects, we as designers, we need to bring the objects to the right price, sustainable objects that are at the right price. And this is extremely important. And we need also to choose projects. I guess that many designers like me are asked for some projects, and we have the choice today to say yes or no to some projects. Very recently, I've been asked to design an object that was completely impossible for me to imagine. For example, it was a fridge for cosmetics, and I said, no, how can we design a fridge for cosmetics today? I think it was completely out of and I said, it's not possible. I cannot, as a designer of that moment, design something like that. And on other moments also, we need to choose and be very, at the same time, pragmatic, but also very engaged onto sustainable matters, because we need to choose the right materials. We need to fight for that, and it's a real fight, and it's a fight I've been doing for years now. But very often, I'm not listened to. I'm listened to, but then the final choice isn't made. And I think it's the right moment now, because people are ready, and it's coming from the top, but it's also from bottom up. And those, I think we need to meet each other at a moment when we choose why we design objects, why we decide that all the objects, upholster object that we design, for example, you can change the cover, you have to think of objects in the long term. All in materials, of course, but also visually speaking. And it's very important also to try to escape from some fashion moments in design. And so that's why I try to defend also kind of classicism in objects. It doesn't mean that we have to live in a super normal life where all the objects be only functional, because I don't believe in that either. I think that we should bring something different, and that design and creation help us escape reality in a sense, and we need creation to live. But then we need to think also on a perspective that is really longer and not linked to fashion and to moments. And that's also what is important for a designer to understand today, in fact. So I don't know if it was clear, but for me, it's very interesting for us to hear that. As a French designer, of course, it's a real question, because we know that we don't have the strengths in the authorities. They're not taking that as a serious topic, not enough, I would say. They're beginning, but they're not enough. But then then we need to design our own movement, and don't think about Bauhaus as the movement, as the only reference, because I think it's not our reference, it's not our time, it's a different moment, and we need to redesign this too.
Thank you very much, Constance. Of course, it was very clear, and you touch very many interesting points. Of course, the fact that also yesterday we talked about how this logo or this strong heritage and legacy of Bauhaus was probably picked by the European Commission, because it's something that communication-wise, it's very strong as a strong tradition. But we also we don't see any nostalgia, and we don't want any nostalgia. But of course, they picked it probably. This is, of course, we share what we are thinking, because the project is still at a very early stage. That it was something that could connect different countries, because it was not just an experience in Germany, but in Europe, but also in Israel, in India, in United States. That was, its international dimension. But I want also to refer the fact that when you talked about choices, it's important that today a contemporary profile, design profile, has to say no, because of timing and the source of time is very important. When you say like, it's not only about durability, but it's about like avoiding or escaping from the seasonal clock of fashion, but also to make something that will make not just the consumer, but the entrepreneurs conscious of what they do and what they decide to produce. So thank you very much for this, for your contribution. The next guest that we call to action in the conversation is Jean-Louis Fréchine, which is an architect and a designer and theoretician that we want to invite to express his opinion and his comments about this new European Bauhaus, and if it's in his opinion, the disciplines bouquet is also to include politics, demography, or what else?
It was a good news, this announcement of Ursula von der Leyen. I read an article on the main French economic newspaper because in France, this announcement don't have very noise and talks about, because France is a special country about design. As I say, for us, Germany with the Bauhaus is our father. Italia is our mother. For a French architect and French designer, the Italian designer of the 70s are as important as the people of the Bauhaus are. It's really important. But England is also very interesting. It's like our strange uncle. And the people of the north of Europe teach us how to make beautiful things with material, like master. These people teach to the French how to do the furniture for the Chateau de Versailles. So for me, design is one of the biggest European common goods. Design was born in Europe, from the disegno in Italian, the dessin in Old French, and the design in England. The English language is quite a mix of Latin and French. So you see the way these words go in the top of Europe. So we have to take care of this beautiful, not activity, but attitude, because it belongs to us. And it's very important to put that in our mind. But the Bauhaus is a school, but it's mainly something bigger than that. The Bauhaus created the aesthetic of the 20th century, and it belonging not to Europe, but to the world. People of Bauhaus go to Israel and to North America. So they create really the aesthetic of the second industrial revolution. We are now in a new industrial revolution, the digital revolution, the revolution of information and relation, and there is no conversation about the aesthetic of this new revolution. Some thought came from California to explain us what design is and how to do things, like the people of consumerism design as the habit to do. And Europe don't make effort to create their own way. We tried in NC in 1988. We want to make the Bauhaus of digital time. We are a little bit early in this task, and during quite 15 years we work on that, but it's not an effort of one school. It must be an effort of quite a country, or more than that, a continent. We share a lot with German, with Italian, with English people, and we have to not only to regulate the digital, but to create the representation and aesthetic of this area. in the late 80s, I heard an Italian architect and designer, Denis Santachiara, and Denis Santachiara tell us that Italian Renaissance show to the world how nature is beautiful and source of inspiration. And Santachiara, in this exhibition in the Grand Palais, say, now we have to show to humankind how technology is beautiful and source of inspiration. And these two sentences are really important for me. But now we are not in this case with this new Bauhaus and this new way of doing things, because yes, indeed, there is a new industrial revolution, the digital, but we have also a big change of paradigm. Our planet is in danger, and you have to manage very complicated things like CO2, house green gas, and all this kind of invisible stuff. So we have to make not only an economical, social, and a scientific revolution, but we have to manage the way we are doing things now. And it's complicated because the nature doesn't exist anymore. We change the nature. It's like the nature is like the Netherlands under the sea. The men change the nature, and all the planet is like this. So we have invent a new symbiosis between nature and technology. Not like in the past, not like Jean-Jacques Rousseau told about the nature, but to continue the world that we change. And for that, we have to invent, it's the designer Jean-Marie Massot, they taught that in the exhibition Designer du Design, qualitative growth, because the life, it's growth. It's impossible to not growth. So we have to invent a new way of not making quantity or bad things, but qualitative and good and right things, by the way. Historically, design is between science and society, but now design is between science, society, and it's now totally surrounded by our environment. In French, we make the difference between environment, and milieu. And the humankind is in the middle it is part of a big ecosystem. The environment is around us, but we are part of it. We are inside. It's a quite big metonymy. And it's very complicated to invent the design of this new stuff, because they convoke all kind of disciplines. So the goal is not to work together. The goal is to invent the transdisciplinarity far and beyond speciality. And this is why I'm so inspired by the announcement of European Union, because it is the opportunity to invent this transdisciplinarity. We don't know how to resolve the problem, and there is no specialist of this problem. So if we work together with our difference, we could manage and manage the unknown, going in a way we don't know how to do that. And the guy who inspired Ursula von der Leyen are scientists, architects, politicians, a very different kind of people. And the synthesis of their works, the Caput release, Caput is a city near Berlin, is really interesting, and talk about transdisciplinarity. In conclusion, in the Bauhaus, the famous professor Molinaggi, because in the design, the relation with technology is always a complication. Some designers don't like technology, but there is no design without technology, by the way. And Molinaggi say, with and against the technology, not like a goal, but like a meaning to go to this unknown, where we have to work for our children and for the future of our continent.
Thank you very much, Jean-Louis Fréchine, also because you talked about a new transdisciplinary approach. the quality growth, and you also mentioned the unknown. Here in Triennale Milano, we are working on the presentation on December 1st of the new 2030 International Exposition, which the title will be Unknown Unknowns, because what we don't know, it's the area where we need to look, or at least we need to turn on the light in that direction. And it's going to be a great challenge where scientists and designers are working together. And this is the appointment of Triennale for 2022. But there will be occasion to talk about it. I ask to open the chat to all our audience. So if there are comments and statements or possible questions after the next guest, we will open it and we will listen to your positions according to the remaining timing. And I want to now give the floor to Philippe Dabé, a French designer based in Milano. Is a young designer, and we talked about how is the approach of designing is changed in the past years. We talked about politics, we talked about science. I would love to hear your position and how you are, how you design, and what are the ingredients of your approach. We can open the mic of Philippe.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure for me to be here in my studio. Unfortunately, next time I hope in Triennale. To answer quickly to your question, I think that in the last period, I mean, I've been doing this job for now 6 years. I created my studio, and I feel that I'm lucky and also unlucky, because the period is quite something that we didn't expect. I mean, I didn't expect it when I was a child to have this influence, you know, on this whole world, you know, as a human being, you know, for everyone as an influence. But now I decided to choose this job that really gives me this feeling of responsibility. So, and I really want to insist on this. It's kind of a new feeling for me. I didn't start my work thinking like this, because when I studied at school, and that is the interesting point, because we're about to create something new, this new European Bauhaus, that has to be in phase with what designers think. So when I was at school, the importance was to create objects. That was the only goal for the teachers and the students. So we had to create objects, we had to answer to a brief, and that was the thing. I'm not saying that it was bad, because then you can open your eyes and realize what is the right path to follow. But anyway, that was the path of the 21st century. So the beginning, sorry. What I like to think now, I like to remember the think different, think positive claim of big brands that said, yeah, you have to think positive, you have to think different. What I think now in my work of my everyday life is think twice. I think twice. That's the definition of my design. So that means that maybe I can be very slow, and I'm sorry for my clients sometimes, but that means that I really want to bring to my clients the best as I can. It doesn't mean that it's the best of all times, of everyone, but it's the best that I can do. So I'm asking myself every time, what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make it that last more than what it could last? So I really want people, I mean, sometimes we talk about like education through objects, So sometimes you have to build a big machine to explain how things work and how you can save the world with this object and things like that. I think that, I mean, for me, I don't know for the other designers, but I think that it doesn't have to be so didactical. I don't know if the word exists, but it can also be an education through the quality of objects. And of course, I think that the shape is part of this quality. I mean, if you work the more as you can on a shape, if you ask yourself if it's a reference to the past, or if you are respecting the environment, and if the people can have a link with this object, I think that it's great. I'm saying this, and I believe in this because it happens to me. I mean, 4 years ago, more than 4 years ago, I bought a phone that was not an iPhone, and I said, okay, this is the phone that I want to keep for the longest time as possible. And I kept it for 4 years and a half, and at the end, I was linked to this brand, and I wanted to have the new one when it broke. Okay, but I was so proud of me, and this proudness became something that make me want to have a product that looks like this one. So I'm sure that shape can really create this kind of link. After, I wanted to talk about like the politic. I mean, the politic, of course, this thing is a new good news, I would say, for every creative people and for everyone at the end, because this moment that we're living in is of course, I'm not the first that say it, but it's an issue for everyone. So we have this kind of responsibility. But I'm sure that the politics need to make something start from there. So that's the goal. But also not only in terms of design, but also the research for new materials, because I think that we are all ready to work with new materials. I mean, that's the definition of design. Designers can, how can I say, think of a process, of a new process with every single materials, with everything. I mean, we can apply this structure of creation with every materials, with every, so it would be something for us that I think could be like children with a new toy. You know, we give to designers new materials, new techniques, new processes. We can really create surprise with this, because when the plastic arrived, new shapes arrived. So I'm not saying that plastic is good, but some kind of plastic can be good also. For example, for science or hospitals or things like this. I'm finishing just quickly. I think that we need to invest also in research, in science, and things like this. And I'm insisting on the fact that it has to be a teamwork, because I'm not sure that only designers can change and save the world. I would say we need to be a team. We need to have some people that research for something, and we can use it as a tool, as a new tool to create new things. And I'm sure it will be a beautiful future. I hope so, actually.
Thank you very much, Philip, for your positive drive, and also for reminding us that being a designer is a very responsible job. You need to think twice, as you mentioned, and this invitation to be slow. That means that you need to not only to think twice, but to consider all the elements before making any choice. Also, reconnects with the Constance Guisset intervention a few minutes before you. Before leaving to Linda Marchetti for the final remarks, we're getting closer to 7 p.m. Central Europe timing. I would like to thank once again all the people that are following this conversation. There will be a backup and an article on Triennale Magazine next week with the recording of this conversation. And I also take the chance to say that this series is continuing, and on December 10th, we will have the Netherlands guest of the next bilateral Triennale Milano, a new European Bauhaus. We have a question very quickly. Sorry, Linda, then I give the floor to you. From the audience, do we already have an idea of the type of call that will be implemented and which European DG will launch this call? We don't know yet. We know, for example, that Ursula von der Leyen will again address a speech about this topic on Saturday, tomorrow, for the inauguration of the academic year of Bocconi University here in Milano. And we know that several offices in Brussels, in Strasbourg, are working on the next steps, because the phase number 1 is to engage the expertise of designers, architects, as digital experts, scientists, entrepreneurs, and also engineers and scientists. So this is the moment what the European Commission shared publicly. Linda Marchetti, please to you for the final remarks.
Thank you, Marco. I took some notes, so I will try to be as clear as possible, at least for what I heard. I note that I noticed the importance of the political level, not only to help implementation of real design policy, but also to train and lead future designers to decisional levels. I note that we talked also about the term of Bauhaus, and not to be trapped by a concept and to go beyond in the political act, but also in the redefinition of the challenges of our own time, which are very different. To work on these challenges and in our vision of the role of designers and what we expect of creation and objects. I note also the European approach between legacy and heritage, and the fact that Europe missed somehow the digital revolution, and that we must take today this opportunity to invent a new way of life, to reach this new design by reinventing our perception of which skills this new way of design needed. I've noted also the particularity of our times and the evolution of our needs, the conscience of designers on their role and impact on society and environment. The new dimension of our quality concept through education and production, and to keep an open mind of the positive way to integrate these evolutions. The importance also to coordinate this movement of all the society to be efficient in our strategy. To conclude on the concrete tools, I saw a question about the type. Well, actually, the concrete tool from our discussion so far will be based on education, and not only the education of the designers, but of the public and all the society, to understand how we can go beyond.
Thank you very much, Linda Marchetti, and thank you to all the guests. We usually end the conversation underlining some notes or some like a sort of a lexicon, words that they were important. Of course, we talked about the role of politics, and I will remember what Dominic Chamat said at the beginning, that we need to teach again politics as a structure, as a history of thoughts, of social thoughts, and the fact that we need to remember that we are political animals before being animal in terms of relations, of social skills, of economic skills, of money animals. That's very important. And we also like the fact that Constance Guisset was saying we need to escape from this idea that we need to say no. We need to make very important choices, because sustainability is a political choice, and from a designer point of view, the choice is to say no, or to say we can do it in another way, in a different way, like also Philippe was saying. And I also would love to remember the quality growth that Jean-Louis Fréchine stated before, and the need that we need to work together in a very transdisciplinary approach. This is something that is part among the creative community, that is a everyday practice, but we probably need to communicate this to the European Commission, that there's a big amount of knowledge that is ready to be delivered to the political class, because we need to go to the unknown with the known that the design community has in their hands. I'd like to thank every one of you. There's a questions, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. We will reply to Caroline Bunier via email. And thank you very much to Constance Guisset, to Linda Marchetti, to Jean-Louis Fréchine, to Dominique Chamat for their contribution, and to the whole audience for following us in this conversation. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.